Hello, welcome to my channel. This morning I had an amazing meditation and I thought that I would go ahead and share it. Um, this is kind of unbelievable what happened today. And it's talking about the synchronicity of everything that's going on. So this is like massive synchronicity happening. But before I get started on the meditation, I'm going to go ahead and pull a card. So I'm going to give these nice little shuffle. I'm still using Gilded Tarot because that's what I'm drawn to do. I love this deck, as I said many times before. It's the Gilded Tarot by Ciro Marchetti. Here's the box. And so we'll see what happens. As I'm going to just keep mixing these until somebody tells me to stop. And somebody just did. So, okay, so I'll go with this card on top. Okay, and today's card is, oh, this one's really sweet. This is the Four of Cups. And the Four of Cups, in this picture, I was drawn to the fact that it was sunny, shiny. She's leaning up against a tree. She looks very, very calm and content. I'm not going to say happy or sad, but very content. She's got the three cups. They're upright. They're not spilled or anything like that. There's a little mouse or so in the corner here. But just nature all around her. Butterflies and sunshine and the cup. It looks like something's flying the cup. I'm not really sure if it's a person or what it is. But I see a hummingbird in there too, which is like kind of cool. And I like the little squirrel that's in the tree. So lots of nature going on. There's a lot of things happening here with the nature, with and then her just being sort of in that dreamlight state and being happy. So that is the card for today. And I'm going to pause this for a moment because I need to close the door. Okay. Yeah, my husband's shaving and the razor was kind of distracting me, so I wanted to go ahead and do that. So, yeah, so we've got the Four of Cups here, and oh, there's birds flying, and oh, the hand is handing her the cup. So this is like sort of a spiritual, the cup is being extended towards her from some unknown force, maybe from the creator or from, someone. But very interesting imagery here. It's a beautiful card. Most of these cards are quite beautiful, and I really enjoy looking at them. But this one's no different. And I like the flower that's on her lap. So there's a lot of nature here, and there's something very, very special about it. So now I'm going to go into day number 6. I thought yesterday was a great meditation. Today is really going to blow your mind. Today's day number 6 is April 18, 2025. And I start by saying, I do not like Good Friday. And Ramon says, I know you don't. We all know you don't. I said, it is just not a good day. What is so good about someone suffering and dying? I just don't get it. Ramon says, we have discussed this before. And I said, yes, I know. I also know that if there was no Good Friday, there would be no Easter. I just feel yucky on Good Friday. This always has been the case. And Ramon says, indeed. I said, so yesterday I got a response. No, I half expected it, although Metatron told me to ask. I think I understood why things played out as they did. Free will. And Ramon says, bingo, you got it. I said, I sure did, but I'm not sad or disappointed. I'm trying to decide where I want to go with this. I'm not into the idea of business. I'm not ambitious. I'm just doing this because I want to do it. Does that make sense? And Ramon says, it makes perfect sense. You do not want to be an influencer. You want to inspire. If that just means just speaking to a small circle of people, then that is where you will go. Are you prepared for this to grow? I said, yes, but to get myself to put into the hands of others is not where I want to go. I had something some years ago that grew, and I ended up losing it. I just am not prepared for this to grow like that. I will share where I can and let it grow at its own pace. I have basically ceased at trying to persuade people to come to this channel. If they want to come, you know I will welcome them with open arms. And Ramon says, that is a good way to be. The growth may come slowly, but it will come. I said, I know that hoping for something to take off simply will not happen. I have to accept it for what it is, a small endeavor and something that I want to do. Ramon says, you did not think 4 months ago that you would start something, did you? I said, no, I just thought I would step into a place and share something. Each day when I have an experience or wonder who will come in, I feel a sense of jubilation at where my path forward will go. When Nigel told me yesterday that my father was coming in, I was happy, but also a bit hesitant. And Ramon says, why? I said, my father was not famous. He was just a man, and I wondered if anyone could relate to my feelings about him. Ramon says, and you found that they could. The relationship you had with your father was a real, bare-bones relationship. You cannot just write it off as an experience or something unrelatable because at the core, it was relatable. It was the relationship between a father and his child. That is more relatable than you tossing out a name of a famous person. Remember when you said that you made a difference because of your courage? You had not considered this, but it was as it was. The realization were not that you were known in a circle of people, but that you were just a cancer patient who was showing the world that you were filled with courage. I said I never saw myself as all that brave. The people that started telling me this, that I guess it was a label, sort of like spiritual. It was all a matter of perception. Do other people view me in this way, or is it just me floundering about? Ramon says, only you can answer that, but take a pause and reflect on it. So I did. I took a little bit of time and reflected on it. And I said, well, so I'm back, and I have been thinking not really about the topic we were discussing, but about the fact that today I picked a shirt that has stars all over it. In Germany, the symbols of stars is more or less for Christmas, but yet it is Good Friday, sort of the antithesis of Christmas. And Ramon says, maybe, but perhaps the notion of Christmas is about a birth. When one transitions from the earthly plane to a spiritual one, do they not sense a sort of rebirth? It is not possible that the selection was a subconscious choice to reaffirm. Is it not possible that the selection was a subconscious choice to reaffirm the idea of rebirth? I said, I suppose so. I used to be in a fandom which called the passing of people as being among the stars. Ramon says, it's a beautiful analogy. The idea about the stars symbolizing birth is fascinating on that, generally and logically speaking, that the stars are thousands of your earthly years old. I said, true, but can I ask you something? And Ramon says, you can. I said, okay, I know this sounds a bit science fiction-ish, but do aliens, as in those souls from other planets, do they show up at the spirit realm the same as humans? I'm trying to understand this dream I had when I was 20. Is there some chance that there could have been a message in that dream, or am I merely grasping at straws? And Ramon says, you're not grasping at straws. Dreams are often encased in messages. That is to say that for what you dream about is often a mirror to the past or future event. In the spirit realm, time does not exist. It is like Metatron said about things being something and nothing at the same time. The reality is that time is not a finite thing in the spirit realm. It is for that reason that we cannot say that X, Y, or Z will happen on June 7th, 2026. We know what will transpire. We know the day that you will transition, but it is not our power to say. We know when the leaders of the world will as well, but it is not in our way of saying specifically. The universal notion does not operate on a time scale as you do. We can say that a leader will transition, but when we say soon, it might happen tomorrow or in a year's time. I said some time ago we talked about how the good people transition quicker than the evildoers. And Ramon says, yes, we did. And the notion of fear is what protects people from actually releasing their bonds that tie them to earth. It is far more simple for a good person to transition than for an evil man to do so. I said it makes sense, but still it does not make things easier for those left behind. And Ramon says, you are not left behind. You are a human being having a human experience. I said, could I have reincarnated from other planets, or am I still evolving on Earth? Ramon says, yes, you could have, and you did. It may seem hard for you to imagine, but the universe is vast. It is like the idea of infinity. You could never reach the ends or edges of it because there are not any edges to it. It's like numbers. You begin counting at 1 and you go up to 100, to 1,000, to 1,000,000, 1,000,000,000, and so on. The numbers never stop. You could, if stacking the numbers on top of each other, could not reach the edge of the universe because it will continue on and on. This is why it's hard to even imagine the vast expansiveness of time. I said suddenly Gene Roddenberry popped into my head. I imagined that he tried, through his imagination, to imagine the idea of expansive nature of time. And Ramon says he did. I said, I remember an episode of Next Generation where the crew and ship was sent to where no one has gone to before. I thought that it was an amazing story. And Gene Roddenberry says, I'm glad you liked it. What did you take from it? I said, I got the impression that through the traveler who encapsulated the notion of time and space as Ramon and I were talking about, that he truly could understand the idea of time and space being without limit. And Gene Roddenberry says, it was as imagined. I said, I got that sense. I'm not sure who wrote the story, but I liked how humble and kind the traveler was, a sort of silent observer. And Gene Roddenberry says, so what you saw was my idea that a race of highly evolved beings were wandering about amongst humanity. I said, I always thought that it was an amazing idea. I remember the actor saying that he got letters from kids wanting to be considered special. It was touching, as I was about that age, the same age as Wesley Crusher was when the episode aired. And Gene Roddenberry says what the motivation of that story was not to convey a notion that one person was more special than another, but to show the adults to strive to recognize and embrace the child who might be misunderstood. The reality of this particular character was to show that each child, when encouraged, could go out into the world and make a profound difference. The adults must merely pay attention. When the traveler left, the crew was put into this dynamic place where they could help that child to grow to adulthood without fear of what other people would say about him or her. The intention was never to leave someone out. It was to show that with the proper encouragement that a child could realize their fullest potential. I said, that is amazing. Thank you for coming and talking about that. It was one of my favorite episodes. While you are here, did you hear the discussion about the alien who couldn't communicate except through old stories? And he said, I did, and I love that discussion and your idea. How would it be for you and me to discuss other stories? It might actually show you that when one says no, sometimes someone else might say yes. I said, wow, that would be cool. And he says, just allow yourself all the time to do this. You will have the opportunity. I said, I will, thank you. I never thought that when I got a no from one person that I would get a yes from a master storyteller. The geek in me is literally dancing in circles right now. Thank you, Mr. Roddenberry. This has been an honor to speak with you. And he says, my pleasure. And Ramon says, now how is that for closing? I said, wow, and what a closing it is. I must say the universe is amazing. And Ramon says, and so it is. And that was the end of the meditation for today. I was very, very surprised when he popped in. But again, Nigel said that every day I was going to have somebody new coming in. And, oh, wow, I can't wait till tomorrow. Okay, so now we're on the Four of Cups. Let's see if I can find it in this book here. I'm really anxious to see what this one has to say. I thought that the card was really beautiful. Okay. And so here we are, the Four of Cups. It says, 3 cups stand upright in the foreground, while a fourth is magically offered from the clouds to the young man. Okay, it's a man. I thought it was a girl, but it's a man. Who appears bored and unaffected by such an amazing event. He sits amidst a vibrant landscape, yet he seems lost within his own thoughts. And this says the mood of nonchalance surrounds the Four of Cups, an air of indifference. It can represent a feeling of boredom or inward discontent, even though nothing appears to actually be wrong. You need to be watchful that due to the mood, you don't inadvertently miss new invitations or opportunities, the kind of thing that you'd kick yourself for later. That seems apropos for what happened today in the meditation. I was feeling a little bit indifferent, and after the meditation, I don't feel indifferent anymore. And I feel like that there was a magical cup being extended to me through the conversation with Gene Roddenberry. So this feels very, very fitting for the meditation for today, even though, in a sense, I didn't really get the impression that this person was indifferent. I just got the impression that I was just noticing all the nature and the beauty that was around them. And I wasn't really recognizing that they were indifferent about it. But I was thinking when God closes the door, he always opens a window, that kind of thing. So this is like really kind of interesting that this card came up today. But I will be watchful and I will be mindful that when God closes a door, he always opens a window. There's always going to be a window of opportunity there. So that is the card for today. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And reach out for the stars. Maybe you'll catch something. And not be a cold or a flu or anything like that, but you might catch something really, really amazing. So I hope you have a great day. Take care. And as always, namaste.